Hello there, welcome to my third YouTube tutorial. Today I wanted to show you how I created this nice launch screen with a dramatic shadow effect for iOS using Swift. This tutorial is also on Medium and you can download the code from my GitHub. I will leave the link in the description below. I hope you guys like it. If you do, please leave a comment in the section below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more of my content. And now let's get started. So as you can see, what I did was move the shadow in a circular motion from the right to the left. And also I added a light effect that gets more intense as the shadow moves towards the center of the label, okay? What we will need to do to achieve this effect is to move the shadow offsets X and Y value to the right direction, which is the left, so it looks like it follows the light, okay? I will create a view that will go over the entire view as well, and it will cover every object. Its function is basically to make everything look darker or lighter. Its color will be basically darker than the view, and then by decreasing its alpha component, I will make it look as if the view gets lighter, but really it's just this view on top of everything else that's just becoming less visible, okay? And the background behind it will be lighter, so it looks like it's just getting lighter, but it's not really. Well, first of all, you will need to go to your assets and define a color for your background, one for the shadow and one for the label. I decided to use these three colors together because I really liked the final effect, basically, but you can use any other color really. Now, on your launch screen's background, you should set the same color as the shadow color, okay? And then you will move back to your main storyboard and continue your animation there, because the launch screen is actually not meant to support animations. So you will need to do anything you want, and you will need to assign a view controller and do any sort of editing, let's say, from the main view controller. So that's where the animation will happen, okay? Now, this view's background color should be lighter, okay? So I will use my preset background color to define its color and the label's color, obviously, as well. The next step is to create the view that we will use for the shadow by declaring a lazy var view of type UA view, well, shadow view of type UA view, and setting its frame to view bounds, its color to shadow color, and its alpha to 0.9, okay? Then in view.load, we will add our subview and bring it to the front. Now, if you build your project, you will see that the shadow view covers everything and makes the entire view look very dark, okay? Now, let's define the initial shadow offset for the label. First of all, the label should not be visible at all at first. So we'll set it to alpha equals 0. Now, its shadow, the color should be black, the shadow radius should be 5, and its opacity should be 1. As per its offset, I will set it to be to the right side of the label completely. So width will be 10 and Y will be 0. Basically, I am telling the code to move the center of the shadow to the right by 10 and down by 0 with regards to the center of the label, okay? Now, this won't always be like that, as I want the shadow to move in a circular motion to the other side of the label. So what I will do is use trigonometry to calculate the X and Y values for the shadow center with respect to the label center, okay? If you're not too familiar with trigonometry, or you'd like to just use my formula for automatic calculations, I'll leave the link in the description for my tutorial and the GitHub link to the code. I think that you might need to read the tutorial to know how to use it, or maybe it's just okay to just watch this video and see how I use it. I think it's pretty straightforward, but then again, if you're not familiar with it, it might get confusing. So I'll just leave every link in the description below, so just in case you have all the tools, to be doing this on your own. Now I'll set the first function for the animation. Basically, I created one function for each point where the shadow will move to, okay? For a total of 7 functions. Each of them will be calling each other. I'll call the first shadow function from viewDidLoad and get started. Every function will look very similar, but not the same, okay? The first animation will have a duration of 1 second, the delay is set to 0, and the animation option will be curve is in. So the animation will kind of start slowly and then go faster as it starts animating. The first thing that it will do is make the label visible, because right now we don't have a label, okay? So since I want it to be a smooth transition, I will not make it completely visible just yet. I will set its alpha component only to 0.75. For now, obviously. The shadow view alpha will also decrease to 0.6, so the view is less dark and therefore will start looking like a light is getting closer. And I will not change the shadow's offset yet, and I will just call the second animation from the completion handler. If you build your project now, you will notice that the label starts appearing and the view gets slightly lighter. Now let's continue with the second animation. I will copy paste the code from the first animation, but I will change a few things. The first one being the function that it will call from the completion handler, which will be the third, obviously. Otherwise, if I leave the second animation function, well, it will just call itself on a loop, right? So you want to change that. The labels alpha will now be 1. The shadow alpha will now be 0.5. And I will implement the trigonometry function to calculate the shadow's offset, okay? Knowing that the distance from the center will be our hypotenuse. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure. I'm not a native speaker. Let's just say you need to type the letter H. The length will be 10, which is the same length that I specified in the beginning for the shadow to be on the right of the label. I set it to 10, 0, remember? So the length will still be 10. And I want the shadow to move by 22.5 degrees down each time. Okay, so it's 22.5, then 45, then 67.5, then 90 degrees, and so on until I get to the last function. Use my formula as shown in the tutorial and in this video and set the labels shadow offset x and y values to whatever results from the calculation. You will get an error because you will need to unwrap the x and y values. I usually like to keep it safe when it comes to unwrapping values, but because I know that x and y will not be equal to nil in this specific occasion, I will force unwrap it with an exclamation mark. I will also change the animation duration to 0.75 to make it go a little bit faster, and its option will be linear, just so it continues animating at the same speed. Okay, I needed curve ease in the beginning because it would start slower and then get faster later. But now I just want it to be, all the same speed, at least until the last function. Then you will see when we get there. From now on, just copy paste this animation code into the other codes, and all you need to change will be the animation duration, the shadow view's visibility, the angle of the circle to calculate the shadow's x and y value, and the new function that will be called upon completion, okay? So for shadow 3, I will set the animation duration to 0.4 because I want the animation to go faster as it gets to the center of the label. I can take off the label's alpha because I don't need it anymore. It's already visible, so I don't need to change that. The shadow alpha will be 0.4. The angle will be 45. The completion handler will call shadow function number 4, okay? But when I say that I will change the shadow alpha, I mean the shadow views alpha, okay? Just so it doesn't get confusing. For shadow 4 function, I will set the duration to 0.3, shadow views alpha. I'm trying not to get confusing here. Shadow views alpha to 0.2, angle degree to 67.5, and the completion handler will call shadow 5. Shadow function 5. Too many shadow words. Shadow function 5 will be similar to shadow function 4, but the angle will be 90. The shadow view alpha will be 0.3, and it will also call shadow function 6 from completion handler, okay? As you can tell, the view is almost at the end of its journey. Well, the animation is almost at the end of its journey. So in Shadow 6, things will start getting a bit darker and slower. The animation duration will be 0.8. The shadow view alpha will be 0.5 and the angle will be 112.5. Don't forget to also call Shadow 7 from the completion handler. And now we got to the last function. Yay, we're done. So this is where everything ends. So the completion handler will not call any function, obviously. So it will just print animation complete, or you can just take off the completion handler at all because we don't need it, basically. Its duration will be 2 seconds. The animation duration will be 2 seconds. The shadow view alpha will be 0.7 and the angle will be 135. Another important thing, I said that all animations would be linear after the start, but because this is the final animation, I want it to kind of slow down as it plays. So I'll do the opposite of what I did in the beginning, and I'll set the option to curve ease out. Okay, so it kind of slows down as it stops animating. Now, if you did everything correctly, if you build your project and your animation, you should have basically something like what I showed you in the beginning. Let's see. And voila! If you get any errors or bugs, which I hope you don't, I will leave a link to the written tutorial on this animation on Medium. Like I said in the beginning, it will be in my description down below. So maybe it will be even easier to follow because it's literally all written down. So you just have to copy paste and just change it to whatever your code is about. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial. If you did, then don't forget to subscribe to get more of my content and leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. See you for the next tutorial and thanks for the love.